Alright, this is session 2 of AP Macroeconomics, in which we are going to go over supply and demand. To start this out, I want to look at a demand graph, just a demand graph. So we're going to draw our quadrant 1 graph with price and quantity on the two axes. Now, the demand curve, and I say curve for right now, for the sake of the example, I'm going to treat it as a straight line, looks like that. That's your demand curve. Now I'm going to explain that in just a second, but I do want to show you that later on when we combine this, your supply curve is going to look like that. So the supply and demand curve is going to consist of two lines and the final product will look like that. Now, I'm going to do some explaining to you right now as to why the demand curve is going to slope downward. I'm going to use the example of paperback books. I don't know if you can see that. It might be too high up on the board. I'll look in just a second, and if it is, I will lower it. Yeah, just a little bit. Is that good? Alright, just everybody, this says paperback books. That's all you need to know. Alright, let's say that your average consumer, and let's call him Fred, has $40 a month to spend on paperback books. So, if the price of paperback books, the price of the paperback books and the quantity that he is going to buy, and we're going to do this by the month. If the price of paperback books is, and we're going to start high, $25, then Fred is only going to be able to buy one for that month. Now, if paperback books are $20, then he's going to buy two. Take this down even more to 15. He's going to buy, no he's not. He's not going to buy 3. He's going to buy 2. Let's bring it down to 10, and he'll buy 4. Bring it down to 5, and he'll buy 8. And we're not going to do 0, because if they were free, he'd never stop. Now, looking at the data we have so far, you can see that if this is your demand curve graph with price and quantity, at price 25, 20, 15, 10, and 5, and quantity 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. At 25, he would buy 1 paperback book. At 20, he would buy 2. At 15, he would also buy 2. At 10, he would buy 4. At 5, he would buy 8. So Fred's demand curve for paperback books looks like that. A downward sloping, it's not a line, but that is what his demand curve for paperback books looks like. That is your supply and demand curve. Now, well, it's not your supply and demand curve, it's your demand curve. Now, I want to talk about some things that can cause the demand curve to shift. Let's say that Fred is a police officer, and he solves a case that's been unsolvable for the last 12 years. He's going to get a raise. So let's say that his paycheck increases by 50%. So assuming that books are a priority for him, then his income is now going to become 60. His savings for paperback books is going to become 60 a month, an increase from 40. Now let's look at the new quantity for paperback books. If paperback books are $25, then with this new thing, Fred is going to buy 2 a month as opposed to 1. If they're 20, he's going to buy 3. If they're 15, he's going to buy 4. If they're 10, he's going to buy 6. And if they're 5, he's going to buy 12. So let's add a little bit more over here. And let's chart this new axis, or this new demand curve. Alright, so at price 25, Fred will now buy 2 paperback books. At price 20, he will now buy 3. At price 15, he'll buy 4. At price 10, he'll buy 6. And at price 5, he'll buy 12. That is the new demand curve. As you can see, my point from last time has been further emphasized here by showing that an increase in demand, just like an increase in any other economic graph, is displayed with a shift to the right of the graph. If demand had decreased, say that the case that he had solved turned out he solved it wrong, and he went back to only being able to spend $40 a month on paperback books, then his demand curve would go from here to here, showing that a decrease in demand is indicated in a shift to the left. And that is the basic principle of how demand works. If there's anything unclear, I will answer any questions that you ask. Now, supply is an upward shifting curve, as you saw when I graphed supply and demand together. And now we're going to look at why that is, now that we've analyzed demand. Let's use the same example, paperback books. Let's say that paperback books cost $10 each to make. The company, the price of books that they're going to sell at, and the quantity that they're going to produce, so it gets a little tricky. Alright, first of all, let's look at this. If it costs $10 to make one paperback book, are they going to sell at 5? No, that would be stupid. They would lose half of their profit by working And that doesn't make any sense. So there would be nothing there. If it costs $10 to make a paperback book, and they're going to sell them for a price of $10, would they do it? No, they're going to break even. No profit is made. They can't do that. If they sell paperback books for $15, let's say that they say, alright, we can increase our profits by, we can make a 50% profit here. And let's say that to them that's worth, they're going to make $5 per consumer who's willing to pay $15 for books. Now, if they're selling for $20 and they're going to double their profit, that's worth a lot to them. So let's say that they would be willing to make $10 if they knew that they were going to get double that back. And for $25, if they're going to increase their profits by a lot more, then let's say that they'll make $20. So, as you can probably assume here, what's going to end up happening with this is and we're going to do this one by twos. At price 25, they're willing to sell, they're willing to produce 20. At price 20, they're willing to produce 10. At price 15, they're willing to produce 5. And at any price lower than that, they're not willing to produce any at all. Realistically, they would be willing to price at 11, and for the sake of everything, we'll just see where that leads us. So this is the supply curve. As you can see, upward shifting graph. As the price goes up, they're willing to produce more because they're going to make more of a profit. So they're willing to work harder and produce more for more of a profit. And that's the price going up. Now I want to bring in Fred's initial demand curve, where he can